SaaS businesses come in all shapes and sizes. You could have a VC-backed business, a bootstrap business, and you could also have micro SaaS businesses. In this episode, if you're actually looking into growing your micro SaaS business, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles that I have learned the hard way on actually how to grow micro SaaS businesses. And when you follow these 3 principles, you will be able to stress test your core idea for a micro SaaS business and accelerate your path to the next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS business faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you are new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon, that way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of my go-to-market coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. In my last 15 years of being in the SaaS industry, I've only worked on large traditional SaaS businesses. I've done a bootstrap business, I've done a venture-backed business. I sold my venture-backed business to a PE-owned SaaS business. That was about 450 million ARR, and we sold that one too. And so I've seen all kinds of big size SaaS businesses. It's only in the last few years where micro SaaS businesses have become all the rage. And so I started to take everything I've learned in growing those kind of traditional SaaS companies and applying them to growing and experimenting with micro SaaS businesses. And so on this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles that I've learned from applying my core go-to-market principles to a micro SaaS business. And I'm gonna walk you through exactly how you can apply them so you can grow your micro SaaS business faster. So if you are excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that. Let's go to principle number 1. Principle number 1 is you have to focus on what I call a little big niche. Some people call it niche. I like to call it niche, depending on what you prefer. I don't know, put it in the comments, but it's a little big niche.
Niche.
Because the niches are in the riches. But the main point I learned about micro SaaS is what you need to do is actually pick a big niche, and then you have to find a little niche within that big niche. That's what makes sense for micro SaaS businesses. Now, on the other side, if you're building a venture-backed business, you want to go after a very big total addressable market, a very big market, right, that you can go after. Otherwise, the economics and the math doesn't work out. If you're building a bootstrap business, you may want to go in the medium size, or maybe you want to compete with the big guys in a differentiated way. It kind of depends. But if you're going after micro SaaS, what I found is you have to go after little big niches, meaning you have to go after a category in a market that is big, not too big, but within that, you got to get more focused and go into a little niche within that big niche. Let me give you an example of that. One of the experiments that I've been running for a micro SaaS business is to focus on founders. Now, the big niche here is entrepreneurs, but within entrepreneurs, you've got founders. It's a different group of people within that larger market that identify as founders. And so I've been targeting that group of people for this micro SaaS solution that I've been testing in the market. Now, you might be wondering, what is that solution? I don't mention it here in this channel. I will do a case study on it later on because I wanted to actually grow this one without the help of this YouTube channel, because that would be unfair, right? You're like, well, TK, of course you grew a micro SaaS business. You had the YouTube channel behind it. I'm like, yeah, I know. So that's why we don't mention it here. We don't promote it here. It just has to be successful on its own. And because of that, I found that you still have to hyper focus on a little big niche. It has to be a compelling enough size market, specific enough, and within that, you have to differentiate and be specific. Are you starting to see this? So principle number 1 is you got to find your little big niche, meaning find a big category, and within that, find a little category that further defines it so you can get very specific for your micro SaaS solution. So for example, instead of being we do X for entrepreneurs, you're saying we do X for startup founders who are entrepreneurs, right? And all of a sudden, right down to the homepage or the marketing copy or the ad, people are gonna be like, oh, that's me. Yeah, I want that, right? It speaks to you, and that's the power of picking a little big niche. Principle number 2, this is something I learned the hard way as we were experimenting with this micro SaaS product, is you absolutely need to have a daily use case. As SaaS businesses, micro SaaS businesses are still SaaS businesses, retention is important. Activation is important. We talk about that all the time in this channel. And if you're gonna do that, what you need to do is from the beginning, introduce the user to a daily use case for your product. If your product is only going to be used every now and then, or only when they need it, or maybe even in a weekly basis or a monthly basis, it's just not enough. You need to find a way to architect the product and the use case and the problem you're solving for this little big niche in terms of a daily use case. That's what you need to aim for. Maybe they won't use it every single day, all the time for every single person, but they have the option to. And you have to hit that mark. If you can't hit that mark, then your retention is going to suffer, activation is going to suffer. And ultimately, what it really means is you're not going to be solving an urgent and important enough problem for a recurring revenue business, which is essentially what micro SaaS still is. So this was hard learned for me, where when we were experimenting, we're like, people are getting into it, they're kind of activating, but then they don't stick around. Like that's horrible. And we looked at it, and we're like, you know what? Let's add a daily use case. And as soon as we add a daily use case, boom, everything just started to take off. Activation went up, retention went up, more and more people started using it. All the charts started going up because they were like, oh, I do this every day, and I do this every week, and I do this every month, and it all connects. And that's like super powerful. And so big principle, hard learned, honestly, even for me, because I think in larger SaaS businesses, even if there isn't always a daily use case, you can still get away with it. If you're doing some major infrastructure piece or some data transfer piece, or you're running some core process that needs to be used once a month or runs behind the scenes, you can get away without a daily use case. It's okay. You can do all the work behind the scenes and send a weekly report and still get people engaged. But for micro SaaS, when you're selling to individual users, you need to own a piece of their daily use case. Otherwise, they're just going to forget about it, and then they're going to say, I don't really need this, or I'll just do it the manual way, and then the Excel spreadsheet always wins out. Okay, so I have a third one, but before I go to the third principle, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? Are you starting to see the power of, for these micro SaaS businesses, if you actually focus in on a little big niche, you can differentiate yourself in the market. If you start to own a piece of their daily use case, then you can really drive those activations and those conversions and those retentions and really own that group. If you start to see the power in this, can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that. Also, if you're in that stage where you're in the pre-revenue stage, you're figuring out your micro SaaS solution, and you're really fleshing out the strategy for it, the idea for it, you're trying to figure out, well, what is the daily use case, and what market are we going after? How do we test this? How do we validate this? I run a weekly webinar just for you, where I go into details on some of these principles that I've covered around micro SaaS businesses on this channel. And it's about a 45-minute webinar. It runs every week. You can access it right away. It's completely free. And in it, I go into details on exactly how to go from that pre-revenue stage to the initial revenue stage. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll link to it below. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this video. Let's go to principle number 3, because you need to know this one. This was also hard learned for me even. Okay, principle number 3, if number 1 is you want to focus on a little big niche, right? Find the big niche that has an urgent important problem, and then focus on the little one in there that has the most urgent important, and like start to identify that way. And identify with a daily use case that you can connect with your user on. The third one is you want to take those two things and actually align it with a desirable result and a value proposition. That's a lot, but let me break it down. You want to make sure, like, listen, no one wakes up in the morning and says, I want to buy a new micro SaaS. I want to pay another $9 a month for this, or $30 a month, or $100, whatever it is. No one cares, right? No one actually wants more software. They just don't, right? Ultimately, they have certain desires as people and as humans, even more so than maybe even a business does. And so you really need to align your micro SaaS and the problem you're solving and how you communicate that value, your value proposition, connecting to a desirable result, something that they're going to get. So for my example here, if I'm targeting startup founders and I'm targeting a daily use case product, I need to actually align my value proposition on something that they really desire, that little big niche really desires, and they work at every single day, and they can use my product every single day to get that result. And you really need to hone in on that and communicate that through a very crisp value proposition. That value proposition is the type of thing you put on your ad, your homepage, the call to action, your outbound emails, wherever you're promoting your micro SaaS business, that value proposition will appear and has to be tied to a desirable result. Because remember, no one wants more software, but they want certain results in their lives, so you have to align to it. So to recap, if you want to grow your micro SaaS business, these are the 3 principles that I've learned as I've been experimenting with my own, taking everything I've learned from building large SaaS businesses. Right now, I work with about 250 founders globally, and they're in all sizes, all the way from pre-revenue all the way to 100 million ARR. And so in those stages, I've started to learn what go-to-market principles work really well for micro SaaS. And so to recap, number 1, pick a little big niche, find a big niche, find a little one within it, get very specific, align to a daily use case, and then communicate all that and that desirable result they're going to get through a very crisp value proposition. You do these 3 things, you'll start to see the metrics actually start to rise up in your micro SaaS solution. You'll see people self-identifying like, oh my God, this is totally for me, and they'll sign up and they'll use it every single day, and they'll activate and they'll retain. Magic will ensue. That's what we saw in the products that we're experimenting with. So now you know exactly how to grow your micro SaaS, but what you may not know is, well, how do I actually pick the right market? What is an urgent or important problem? Am I aligned to an urgent, important problem? What is the example of a daily use case, and how does that align with my overall product strategy? And also, how do you actually flesh out a value proposition? So this is why I run a 45-minute webinar completely free every single week. You can access it instantly, where I go into details on exactly how to stress test your idea, exactly how to think about your value proposition, the market you're going after, and how to go from that pre-revenue stage to initial revenues. All you need to do is just go to tkcater.com/webinar, tkcater.com/webinar. You put in your info, you'll get access right away. It's completely free. And for 45 minutes, I'll give you some of my deepest trainings for founders who are pre-revenue. So just go to tkcater.com/webinar. And also, if you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that. And it's also, so honestly, between you and me, so does me and my team. We really love it when you do that. We put a lot of love into these videos. I also bring you an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches, from my 15 years of eating glass for breakfast, building SaaS companies, and now helping over 250 founders do the same. So these are from the trenches. This is not theory. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon, that you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. If you have a fellow co-founder, a team member, or you're part of a Slack group or a WhatsApp group of founders in this community, please share this video with them. We want to help as many founders as possible so that we can scale our impact here at Unstoppable. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode or inside that 45-minute webinar. Link below, or tkcater.com/webinar. I'll see you in there.